We've got two on the sidelines tonight. One of them a former Mountaineer. Hopefully he doesn't try to tackle anybody, revert to old habits. Karl Anderson will be keeping us abreast of developments on the defensive sideline. And Karl, I know Nate Woody, we just heard from, awfully excited about the way camp went here. And one of those emerging figures, Ronald Blair, certainly somebody that has added some spark on the defensive side of the football.
You're absolutely right, David, and just having Blair back has been huge for this defense. And his absence last year after the first two ball games was pretty considerable when you consider just the mere size of Blair as a defensive end here in this 3-4 scheme. He's about 6'2", 6'2.5", 285 pounds, and losing him and having to go to Adam Scott, who filled in tremendously, but you just lose 60 pounds of mass there at that 5 technique position, and having him back has been huge in the run game for Appalachian's defense as well as the pass rush as well.
Karl Anderson again keeping us on top of the defensive developments. So let's go down to Karl Anderson, and you can kind of explain some of John Law's physical issues he dealt with through the middle of the year, and that really did see a dip in productivity, but certainly what he gained at the beginning of the season should fuel his ability to jump off to a sophomore campaign with really a head start on a lot of other younger players.
Well, certainly statistically, John just exploded onto the scene the first 3 ball games and was awarded, I think, Player of the Week twice in his first 3 games. But he actually suffered both a hamstring and an ankle injury in that 3rd ball game against Elon. And then as he continued to play, our opposing teams got more and more film on him, and they were able to see what he did and didn't do well. And I think people forget, as good as John was in that first quarter of the season, he's only an 18, 19-year-old kid entering his second season as a college football player. He still has a lot to learn, and he's made some improvements this spring, but the future is bright for John, but he has a lot of room for growth as well.
Let's go down to Karl Anderson on the defensive sideline. And Karl, we've heard a lot about Dante Blackman over the years, a guy that had to battle back from injury in this defensive backfield. A lot of that group's productivity will be based around his play early in the season.
That's right, David. I was actually talking to Dante earlier this week, and we talked about his recovery from his knee surgery about 2 years ago, coming in as a true freshman when he tore his ACL and MCL in the first week of camp. He said it took a full year for him to finally recover and get fully confident back in that knee, and he feels that this spring he was able to do that. He feels better in his cuts. He's not rounding them off as much, and as you could see on that last play, he's able to be more aggressive on the ball.
Let's go down to Karl Anderson on the sidelines for us tonight.
You guys, you were talking a little bit about the pressure that the Appalachian defense has been able to generate. That was one thing they really wanted to focus on going into this spring. Only 8 sacks last year for the entire team over the course of 12 ball games. Keenan Gilchrist and Awali Dada, along with Ronald Blair, 3 components to that pass rush that have really improved so far this spring.
Talked to Karl Anderson some about Taylor. I know you watched him a lot during spring ball this summer, or rather this spring, Karl. And Lamb is a guy that, given the opportunity to compete here tonight and based on what he did this spring, would certainly have some good things to show.
Absolutely, David. When Taylor came in, he was the player of the year in the state of Georgia. And, of course, with the connection with his dad, Bobby Lamb, the entire offensive staff was just very high on what he was doing coming in as a freshman. I got a lot of interaction with him his freshman year this past fall when he was redshirted and served as our scout team quarterback. And he has one of the strongest arms I've seen of any quarterback, both he and Caruso, who actually came in this spring as well. So the future of the quarterback position for Appalachian looks very bright, and I'm going to be very intrigued to see what they do with these 2 young quarterbacks.
Let's go down to Karl Anderson on the defensive sideline.
Guys, that's the 3rd high snap we've seen from Tobias Edge Campbell in the last 2 drives. He's a guy who came in early this spring, right out of high school, didn't play any center in high school. He was mostly a guard and also played some defense. And talking to him throughout the spring, he said the biggest challenge was learning how to snap and then take those initial steps as an offensive lineman to get into his block.
And Karl, he's taking off the tape. He had his hands taped, and he's trying to take that tape off right now. I think that mentally that's bothering him.
Karl Anderson, I know you used to be able to do that in your playing day, but Sambo might have made it look a little bit more athletic.
Yeah, I think so. And Ozzie coming in around 230 pounds and standing 6'2" is a guy moving from inside linebacker now to outside linebacker, really fits that prototypical outside linebacker mold, and he's doing a lot of good things this spring.